We all know that economics studies human behavior and their economic actions. It also studies how business firms, government, and other organizations make optimum choices by using limited resources of the economy. If you want to know how these choices are actually made, we must go through certain concepts. First one is trade off. By trade off, we mean that whenever we opt for any action or any activity, we have to forego or sacrifice the other. It involves losing one quality or aspect of something in return for gaining something else. Suppose the price of the commodity falls, the consumers will be prepared to purchase more quantity. Here also there is a trade-off between price of the commodity and the quantity which consumer will be prepared to take up from the market. There is also a trade-off between leisure and work. If we spend or waste time in unproductive activities or for leisure sake, our working hours decrease and hence efficiency. With limited resources, we have also to make choice between food and clothing, and that choice also leads us to trade-off between food and clothing. That means more food would mean less clothing in the economy. When economy want to produce defense or civilian goods, then also a trade-off between the two. When more civilian goods are produced, that would imply less amount or resources will be available to produce defense goods. In the economy, there is also a trade-off between equity and justice. When we want to divide everything in the economy equitably, efficiency will be adversely affected. Because by such objective, we may not be given sufficient chances to the efficient people who can contribute more to the society and the economy. We all know that in the case of capitalist economy, there is more efficiency because there is less focus on equity. But in socialist economy, the resources are equitably distributed and these are in the public hands. So the efficiency and hence profitability is going to be less, but there will be more welfare. So there is also a trade-off between profitability and efficiency. Rather, there is a trade-off between profitability and welfare. If we want to have more welfare in the society, then it will always be at the cost of profitability. Second concept is incentives. Now, there is need for giving incentives because the resources are limited, these are scarce. And with these limited resources or means, we have to satisfy unlimited wants or ends. Now, since we do not have unlimited resources, these resources, goods, and services are available at a price. And this price is actually an incentive to the seller to sell more in the market and earn more income. Next concept is exchange. Without exchange, we will not be able to have fulfillment of the objective of satisfaction, welfare, and profitability. Exchange would mean goods are transferred from producers to the consumers for which consumer make payment. So there is exchange of goods for payment or for a price. Information. Without information, it is not possible to avail all the services which are available in the economy. Students have any information regarding the classes, their timings. That is why they are able to learn. Similarly, consumers are able to purchase goods and services because they are having information regarding the nature of the product, availability of the product, quality of the product, and the price at which the product is available. One can even test the product before purchasing the same, but generally information cannot be purchased. This information is shared primarily on free basis. In the case of perfect competition, we assume complete or perfect information on the part of all the buyers and all the sellers, that is, all market players. And because of this free flow of information, the interest of all the market players are fully protected, and there is fair treatment to every buyer and every seller. But in the case of other market forms, where we have imperfect competition, the information is either absent or inaccurate or incomplete, uncertain or misleading. Because of such imperfections in the information, the interests of the consumers are generally adversely affected and they are exploited. They are generally paying more price in the case of monopoly and other market forms on account of imperfect or misleading information. Imperfect information can be because of misunderstanding regarding the actual cost or benefit of a product, or there may be uncertainty about the same. There may also be complications or confusions on account of lack of expert knowledge about technical products like computers, because of inaccurate or misleading information through advertisement. And because of lack of information, even there is a possibility of health issues. For example, drug addicts may be unable to stop consumption of harmful products. Distribution of goods is yet another important concept. Exchange is meaningless if the product is not distributed to the ultimate consumers. The process of distribution requires transportation, communication, and other logistic facilities. Methods of distributing the goods are generally different for different types of products and for different industries. Sometimes product is directly distributed by the producers, sometimes by the seller, sometimes by the agents of the sellers or producer. Figure 1.1 shows a circle of distribution depicting how goods, services, and income move from one place to another place and from one person to another person. There are two circles in this figure. We all know that farmer sells the wheat and buys tractor. Now the question arises how this tractor is manufactured. This is clear from the outer circle. Whatever is produced by the farmer goes to the mill, then to bakery. Bread is manufactured. It is kept in the stores from where consumer purchase. And these consumers also sometimes becomes producers because every person is a consumer. One of the consumers may manufacture tractors, which is purchased by the farmer through the tractor dealer. This is just one example. We can think of many such examples. Where outer circle shows how wheat finds its way from farmer to the workman who consumes it in the form of bread. Workman helps to produce the tractor used by the farmer in growing the wheat, and the inner circle shows how the money involved in various sales and purchases passes from hand to hand. Next topic, why do we study economics? Even in our daily life, we have to face many questions like what determines the price of bread and butter that we consume on daily basis? Why water, which is very useful for our life, is cheap, while diamond, which is hardly useful, is available at a very high price? And this is explained through diamond water paradox in economics. The first unit of water is giving very high utility to the consumer, but consumer consumes so many units of water that the last unit of water consumed is giving very less utility. That is, marginal utility is very low for water. On the other hand, as far as diamond is concerned, consumer is able to purchase very few units. So the last unit of diamond purchase is having very high marginal utility. The price of a product is decided not by its total utility or usefulness. Rather, price is decided by the utility consumer get from the last unit consumed. That is marginal utility. So water having low marginal utility is cheap, while diamond with high marginal utility is very expensive. There are some other questions also as to why sellers are giving off-season discounts on fans in winter. There may be question in the mind of the consumer why the government is not able to print unlimited quantity of currency notes and distribute the same among the poor. Because if this happens, this will lead to fall in the value of money and inflation. At the international level, for international trade, there are questions as to why government imposes heavy duties on the import of electronic items. Our subject economics provides answer to all these questions. That is why this subject has become a subject of study for academicians, policymakers, bureaucrats, politicians, professionals, and businessmen. There is hardly any aspect of human life which is not explained by economics. Now we must remember and know whether economics is a science or an art. The answer is economics is a science because it also involves systematic study of human behavior. And that is what we do in the case of physical science. That is, there is a systematic study of certain behavior. To analyze that behavior, scientists may collect data or facts and then test to understand the behavior or pattern of that data. On the basis of the tested results, theories are formulated, principles are made, and laws are propounded. Same is true for economics, but economics is social science wherein we discuss both positive and normative statements. Under positive statement, we describe the things as they are, like laws which can be tested. In microeconomics, most of the laws are positive statements, but when we describe certain opinion regarding what is good or bad, that statement will become normative. Macroeconomics is another branch of economics, which is normative. Economics is also an art. By art, we mean application of a theory. According to Robbins' definition of economics, individuals have to choose the best possible alternative which depends on the past experience of the individuals. When we apply a scientific theory, some practical problem may arise, and then we have to tackle these problems by using our skills that we have learned through experience. What we actually do is art. So we can say economics test at the same time as a science as well as an art. Let us now discuss the scope of economics. Traditionally, economic subject was divided into consumption, production, distribution, exchange, and public finance. As far as human wants and the principle governing their satisfaction are concerned, these are studied under consumption through chapters like demand and elasticity of demand. The production of goods and services with the help of different factors of production are considered under production. This is what we study under production and cost analysis. The principles governing the distributive shares of different factors in the form of wages, rent, interest, and profit are covered under distribution. And this is something we also cover under cost chapter. Both production and cost show the relationship between input and output. That means how inputs are converted into output. But when this relationship is shown in monetary terms, that means expenses incurred on different factors of production or different inputs in the form of wages and interest and profit, it becomes cost. As far as exchange is concerned, it deals with the exchange of goods and services between producers and consumers. Finally, in public finance, we study the economic function of government. That is how government gets money and how the same is spent. In modern economics, all these activities are included in price theory. While theory of demand covers consumption, theory of supply covers production, and distribution and exchange are studied under factor pricing and product pricing. So this is how the chapters like demand, elasticity of demand, supply, elasticity of supply, production, cost analysis, factor pricing, and product pricing under perfect competition and monopoly are justified, which we are going to study in this subject on introductory microeconomics. Modern economic theory is actually divided into only two branches: microeconomics, which was traditionally called as price theory, and macroeconomics, which was earlier called as income theory. In the case of microeconomics, which is the theory of resource allocation, we analyze individual behavior. Individual means individual economic unit, which may be one consumer, group of consumers, household, firm, or industry. And in the case of macroeconomics, we analyze mass or aggregate behavior. This is also known as the theory of money, income, and price level. So we can say micro and macroeconomics are used in connection with the level of aggregations. That is the extent to which economic units and variables are covered in the economic analysis. Microeconomics is the branch of economics that studies an economic or decision-making units and considers it in detail, the behavior of that particular unit. It deals with the analysis of the behavior and economic actions of small individual units of the economy, like consumers, firms, industry, or the market. According to K.E. Boulding, microeconomics is the study of particular firms, particular households, individual prices, wages, income, individual industries, and particular commodities. In a way, microeconomics is the microscopic study of the economy. It seeks to determine the mechanism by which different economic units attain equilibrium from individual units to a narrowly defined group. The study of whole economy lies outside the scope of microeconomic analysis. Microeconomics generally assume full employment. An assumption of full employment is taken as a base to optimally utilize the available resources through its suitable allocation. So we can say the theory of price is the central theme of microeconomics, whether it is price of goods or services, decided on the basis of market forces of demand and supply. Part 1.1 shows that microeconomic theory includes product pricing using theory of demand and theory of production and cost. It also has another component, factor pricing, that is also known as theory of distribution, wherein we determine the prices of labor, land, capital, and entrepreneur through wages, rent, interest, and profits. Third component of microeconomic theory is theory of economic welfare. In microeconomics, we solve the three central problems of what goods and services should be produced and in what quantity, that is proper allocation of resources. Secondly, here we decide how goods and services are to be produced and distributed, that is the choice of technique. And finally, how the goods are distributed, for whom to produce, problem of distribution. Macroeconomics is the analysis of the whole economy, wherein we study four broad national aggregate, national income, national output, national employment, and general price level. Macroeconomic deals not with the individual quantities, but the aggregate of these quantities, not with individual income, but with the national income, not with the individual prices, but the price level in general, and not with the individual output, but with the national output. So this is the definition given by Kenneth E. Boulding. Macroeconomics examines and explains the determination of level of composition, fluctuations, and trends in the overall economic activity. Various aspects of macroeconomics can be shown through chart 1.2. It includes the theory of income and employment by using theory of consumption and the theory of investment, which together make theory of fluctuation. Second thing that we study under macroeconomic theory will be theory of price level and inflation. We also study the theory of economic growth. And the fourth item under macroeconomic theory would be macro theory of distribution, where we determine the relative shares of wages and profit. So under microeconomics, we study individual wage rate for labor and other factors. But in the case of macro theory of distribution, under macroeconomics, we study the total share of workers, capitalist, land, and entrepreneur in the national income of the country. Method of economics. Positive economics and normative economics are the two methods of economics. Under positive economics, we describe the state of operation of a firm or economy at a particular point of time or during a period of time. It only attempts to develop hypotheses which explain the things have occurred. On the other hand, in the case of normative economics, we study the ideal behavior, that means what ought to be. So positive economics would means what actually is, and normative economics means what ought to be, that means the ideal situation. Table 1.1 will help in understanding the difference between positive and normative economics. Positive economics explains the actual behavior of economic agents, while normative economics explains the ideal situation, giving policy prescriptions in explicit manner. Positive economics explains the causes, why the things has happened. It also explains the effect of the phenomena, event, While normative economics prescribes norm for the welfare of the society, positive economics is neutral between ends. But normative economics regulates in order to achieve the best or the idealized norms. Positive economics doesn't assign value judgments, but normative economics assigns value judgment and explain what is right, what is wrong. That means what is good and what is bad.